You know, they say that startups are all about pivoting, about changing the business model, adapting to a new environment. Well, if there is one group that mastered the art of pivoting long before the product market fit, it's the migrant founders. Why? Visa changed, pivot. Bank said no, pivot. Didn't get a housing because your name was too long for the form, pivot again. So today we are celebrating incredible founders on stage and who have had their own challenges, their own hurdles, and most of them are unseen. And, you know, just to take a seat on the table. I'm Elnura, COO of the Two Hearts community. And I'm very excited to be here representing Two Hearts. It's the Euro's largest community for talents with immigration background in tech. So we have a focus on tech and support and empower young talent with our mentoring program, with our coaching programs, and just to help them in their personal and professional career. We have over 4,000 members already and very excited about what's to come. Before we start with the panel, I would like to take a moment and thank the summit for giving us this beautiful stage and Startup City Hamburg, especially Sarah Main and who is not here unfortunately today, and Yu Cheng. I think Startup Hub is self-explanatory. They also have a booth here, but nobody can make a wonderful intro than Yu Cheng. Please welcome Yu Cheng on stage with me.
Welcome to the Startup City Hamburg. My name is Yu, and it's a big pleasure for me to host this stage together with Anura and our wonderful panelists. So what are we doing as Startup City Hamburg? As a public organization, we are offering information for founders about the Startup City Hamburg, the ecosystem, the funding opportunities, the supporting programs, the networks, and much more about and for startups. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe our newsletter. Then you won't miss any information, especially the events for startups in Hamburg. We also offering personally individual consulting hours. If you want to talk with us personally, please just book a slot on our calendar in our website, Startup City Hamburg. I will be very happy to talk with you. Come to us and let's get in touch. Let's schnacken with each other. So the stage is yours and enjoy it. Have a nice discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, let's get to the panel. I am joined today with three incredible founders. I will try to talk a little bit louder because you guys don't have headsets. Each of you had your own challenges. I will quickly introduce you. Jacqueline Delora, founder scaling deep tech in Hamburg after a wild ride through bureaucracy, biology, and van camper life. Welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
We have Samina Ahmad, founder of Shades and Contrast, an AI consulting company with focus on ethical AI, especially the topic of bias in AI. Welcome, Samina, as well. Thank you for being here. And welcome, Noah Raisi, founder of Rookie. You guys are building tech that actually levels the hiring playing field. Thank you as well, and great to have you here.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I know it's a late afternoon, so I'm glad that so many people came here to enjoy our talk about people with migration backgrounds.
So let's dive in and unpack what it takes to be a migrant founder, first of all. And you are not just building a product, you're also challenging the system around it. And I'm very excited about this conversation today. I would like to start with Jacqueline. What motivated you to build your startup in Hamburg? I know that your personal challenges coincided with the strategic opportunity. Maybe you can walk us through that pivoting moment where you found out about Hamburg Invest and made the move.
Yes, definitely. So we discovered Hamburg Invest after we were considering founding and spinning off our company from the Max Planck Institute for Medical Research in Heidelberg. And at this point, we were sort of shopping around Germany and also international locations, trying to figure out what would be the best home for our startup and for our ideas and for the technology that we wanted to bring to the world to make an impact in life sciences and biomedical engineering. And we recognized just through some organic Google searching that Hamburg had a really lively ecosystem that looked like it was on the upswing. And in reaching out to Hamburg Invest, we started to come into contact with amazing individuals within the ecosystem and network that sort of helped us to navigate what could have been a really difficult network system. And we ended up just talking to the right people at the right time. And so there was a little bit of like serendipity. We also had a lot of personal situations occurring in the background, but everything sort of like orbited around and came together. And we recognized that we had the best opportunity to be the first movers and shakers in this brand new building that is called the Tech Hub. You may have heard about it today at some point, and it was just like the perfect opportunity to lay the foundations for our laboratory and to start in Hamburg, where we were only going to have the opportunity to expand our currently existing network. So,
Samina, you grew up in Germany, and as a woman of color in tech, one might say you are now in a field that wasn't really designed for you. How has growing up, with these intersecting identities, one might say, help you to innovate, lead, and challenge systems through your work in AI?
Yeah, I think that's the story of my life. I'm in a room which is not designed for me. It feels like that. So let's be very honest. When you are growing up in different cultures, different countries, different backgrounds, you are very used to switching context very fast. So what I observe on myself and also on other with a migration background is that they don't behave every time the same. They observe and adapt quickly. They are very flexible. And I think that's a part where innovation potential is behind, because you observe the market, you adapt very quickly, and you adapt maybe your services and what people need. And that's a very powerful strength. And I must admit, I discovered that this is a strength very late in life, maybe 35 or something. And then I thought to myself, that's a strength. You don't need to adapt always. You don't need to be born into the system in Hamburg or be a Hamburg girl. Maybe it's your power to be different and to lead the difference. And that's where the innovation potential is behind. Yeah.
I really love how you said that, Zamina, because this is exactly what we also, share at Two Hearts, to use those disadvantages or maybe so-called weaknesses that you always thought they were bad for you, use them a little like a little superpowers. And that totally resonates. And Noah, do you feel that being a migrant gives you kind of a different drive? And how has the migrant community in particularly helped you and supported your entrepreneurial journey?
I think it's about how you define drive. I would say in my childhood, yes, I was, I guess, and compared to my other peers at school, forced to go to school. And if I had a bad day, if I had stomach pain, I still had to go, because otherwise, I don't know what my mom would do actually. But I would say that kind of like gave me the education that I need. So it made me more resilient about stuff. It made me develop some sort of grit, I would say, nowadays. And how the migrant community has supported me on my journey, founding Rookie especially, is there's a lot of potential out there with people that are part of communities with migrant founders and people with migration backgrounds. They love to support each other. So actually being part of Two Hearts or in Two Hearts has helped quite a lot, tremendously, to get the right connections, because as you might have guessed, as a second generation migrant founder here in Germany, my network wasn't there. So my parents didn't have any network. I didn't know who to talk to, especially when it is about like B2B context. I would say I had a small disadvantage, but I think over time that developed into something great, as a great asset to have people around you, like-minded people that genuinely like to support you, and that has helped quite a lot.
That's great to hear. And I'm sure you all had your own piece of challenge, and the companies and platforms that you're creating just came out of those challenges. Maybe not completely, but partially. Let's talk about that. Can you share maybe a specific moment where, these challenges not even pushed you, but even forced you to innovate in an unexpected way, maybe?
Yeah, so maybe the most interesting story from my background is how I even got to Hamburg in the first place. So my co-founder was already in Hamburg since July of last year, I think. He's there. That's Martin. And I wanted to really join him. I was just really like chomping at the bit to get to Hamburg, to be with Martin so that we could really like implement the dream of our startup and be in the lab together and really like share the space. And in order to do that, I said, okay, then I cancel my rental contract down south in Böblingen, which is a small city very near to Stuttgart. And I loaded up my camper van with my husband and my 2 dogs, and we came to Hamburg after having already started to look for a place to live since May of that year. So it was already a couple months in, and we hadn't found a place. And we said, yeah, it's fine. We'll just live in our camper van until we find something. And then 7 months later, we're living in the camper van still and really trying to just navigate the bureaucracy of the housing market in Hamburg, which we all know and hate, honestly. It's very, very difficult, especially as a person. At that time, I had no German language skills. I only had the support of the wonderful people around me to help me navigate these systems and try to figure out, how to find the stability of just a place to call home and to lay my head on a quiet pillow at the end of the night. And so what ended up happening at the end of this long story is that I found somebody to give me some really good advice, and I was able to many people actually to give me really good advice, and we were able to figure out how to purchase a flat so that we could find a place to live here in Hamburg. And this was the only solution for us, because on every other face we experienced it's a little bit inflammatory, but what I would call housing discrimination. So there are boxes that if you can't check them, then you have no chance. And the only way that I could fix this was to throw a lot of money at the problem. And this is really an unsustainable model, and it's a systemic problem in Hamburg that, as a migrant founder, is the more talent we try to bring into our ecosystem from outside, from international places, the more this needs to be addressed. And so I was privileged enough to solve it for myself by being flexible and able to pivot and having an amazing support network of people, including my husband in the background, in order to do this. And yeah, I was lucky.
Yeah, it's very harsh, and I'm sorry that Hamburg didn't welcome you as it should welcome. But I thought,
welcome. It was only about the actual like.
yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Samina, you come from both technical and ethical points of view. Having built a software and challenged algorithm bias in models, how do you go beyond the buzzwords, which we have a lot in AI space, and build AI that actually is inclusive by design and not just retrofitted with fairness labels and buzzwords?
So inclusion or responsible AI is a big word, and this big word is actually very vague as hell. So you really have to define, what do you mean by responsibility? Are we talking about fair results of the algorithm? Are we talking about data security? Are we talking about explainable results because I understand it? Or are we talking about sustainability with AI? So many aspects are hidden in responsible AI, and you cannot fix something when you not define it. So that's the first step. I always encourage people, when you use AI, what's the most critical question you have in your mind? Is it sustainable, or is it fairness, or is it explainable? And then from there you can shape AI and also shape what you want to deliver out there. So when we are with companies, we always look at the AI systems. Are we talking about prompting and ChatGPT, or are we talking about medical diagnosis? And we may have to make sure that sensitive data is not being biased. And that's a whole difference. And for me, my focus point is fair AI. Why? That's also, business is always a reflection of your personality. And I experienced a lot of bias, unconscious bias, and also conscious bias against my person. Oh, she's a woman. I need to explain her AI or machine learning. Women in tech and so on. So I try to fight for data representation and also AI representation. And that's reflected also in my company name, because I love all the shades we have in data as persons and so on. And I don't want to have another bubble. I want contrast, because with contrast, you see the whole point of it. And that's
great, Samina. And Noah, recruiting tech is one can say there is a lot of automation there, right? But it often fails also again to hinder bias. What do you do with Rookie, and what is actually missing or was missing in recruiting, and what are you solving with Rookie?
I think it doesn't make sense to get too technical here. We have an algorithm that essentially matches people with the right vocation, so finding the right job for them, especially for youngsters. And yes, bias is a huge topic, but we shouldn't neglect like the obvious stuff. Like we should start, or we thought initially, we should start with something as simple as names. So for example, try to not show and anonymize data that we show to employers. So we anonymize the names, so companies won't know who's behind the profile that applied or got matched. And I think like it's a good story to tell here. Adds to the housing situation actually pretty well. I think with somebody or with a migration background, you always have a story to tell where you got declined or had difficulties because of your name. And for me, it was the same. So when I was 20-ish, I tried to move out of home and I was looking for a flat. And back then I wasn't fortunate enough to rent a whole flat myself, but I was applying at WGs. I think you like housing with other people. And what I noticed is my profile with the first name Felix and last name Hoffmann was getting 10 times more invitations for interviews than my own name. So I think I used that with a good intention to get a house, or at least to get an interview with the people. And eventually that got me my first flat together with other people. But coming back to the point, I think we should start with the simple things as names. And what we try to do with Rookie as well is even on our webpage, when we approach customers, for example, we show them not like the Felix and the Thomas on the website, but we also include Omar and have these names also displayed, because it's so important that we accommodate for these different cultures and showcase them on our website proudly to the outside.
That's so funny that you explain or tell the story with your name and the search for the flatmate, because my brother has the same story. He has Peter Müller or something just to become invited to a flatmate. And from my projects and experience, what you do with Rookie is really a problem in the projects, because I saw so many CVs kicked out, not even because of their name, sometimes because it was a female person not having studied engineering. Then the company tried to fix it and deleted the parameter of engineering. And what the algorithm did was he preferred people with hobby football, soccer, and which is a synonym for a male person again. And so really good that you try to fix that, because I know that's a bias problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your personal stories. And now you're in Hamburg. So you've said the idea of making Hamburg a deep tech nucleation point, am I saying it right, is excellent. But execution is another story. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the concrete changes that you see are necessary to change that.
Sure. Thank you for this question. So maybe a little bit more about my background, and then I can get to the answer. I'm coming from Albuquerque, New Mexico. New Mexico is one of the states in the US that is sort of like on the bottom of the list all of the time. It's the most underfunded. It has the worst poverty. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have a really good reputation. And so growing up there, I really learned how to be creative and how to be innovative. And even in my PhD studies at the University of New Mexico, I had to really find creative solutions to problems because we didn't have a lot of funding, for example. So I know what it is to make impactful research with not a lot of resources. Then I had this amazing opportunity to come to Germany, to the Max Planck Institute for Medical Research. And I chose this position in particular because I wanted to pivot my own knowledge journey into the field of synthetic biology, and in particular, in this field of the ideas to build a synthetic cell. So a biomolecular assembly of molecules that mimics the natural functioning of natural cells. And I had the opportunity to come here, and it was a complete night and day. When I came into the institute in Heidelberg and also in Stuttgart, I walked into these halls where Nobel Prize laureates are hanging around, opening the door for you to come in. There are 7 Nobel Prize winners out of my institute, for example. And the funding it's a utopia there. I didn't have to ask for any money ever. Any idea that I had, and I could justify it with a little bit of course, evidence and scientific thought and logic. The answer was largely, yes, you can have this instrument. Yes, you can have this tool, because they knew that it was going to enable my idea. And my idea at the end of the day should have been impactful towards a range of different applications and fields. And so my dream for Hamburg is I see we're all amazing people here. We're all already here. There is a nucleation plant that has already been established. And for the deep tech community to realize its full potential in this ecosystem, I see that we have to create the utopia, just like exists within other institutions like the Max Planck Institute. There are also a range of different examples I could give you from the US. Janelia Farms is one as well. And their funding is no question. They work to enable the founders, or in this case, their PIs, they're the heads of departments. And these people are doing truly impactful and disruptive research the same way that deep tech could be realized here in Hamburg. And so I just see that the resources have to be unlocked in some way. The infrastructure is already being established in a very meaningful way, and it's only improving. And so, yeah, this is my dream for the ecosystem here, and I'm happy to be a part of it and to contribute to its development.
You are already a part of it, Jacqueline, and thank you for saying and pointing that out. I think in Germany we talk a lot about losing talents, losing companies to the US or to other countries, be it AI, deep tech, and so one of the steps is here that we're sitting here and talking about that. For Samina and Noah, a question: where do you see now, in your example, the systemic challenges within the ecosystem here in Hamburg in particular? And what gives you hope?
So what is the challenge? I mean, Hamburg is very established harbor city, and if you are not born into the system, you are not born into the network. So this doesn't only apply to migrant founders; it also applies to people who are not from entrepreneurs, founders, company, families, right? So they have to work hard. I don't know, 2 times more, 3 times more. So they don't have it by being born into the system. They have to establish their network. What gives me hope? That's a challenge. And what gives me hope is when I look back, there was always 1 or 2 persons from these established networks who wanted to break the system and say, let's invite Samina or let's invite someone else. So in these networks, there's always 1 person who wants to disrupt or be innovative or have a different perspective. So this is something in the history gave me hope. And last hope is if you are not invited, then start your own table. So, and then this is what Two Hearts is doing. Communities like Two Hearts or female founder communities gives me also hope because they are trying to create their own table, and then you can just join with the chair there. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I think there's like some sort of silver lining to it. Hamburg has evolved to what it is today, and I think the circumstances were quite shittier, to so to say, a couple years ago. Nowadays, people try to engage more with people that have migration backgrounds, and it's great to see that even the programs are changing the language for us people, and especially for the first generation founders, it has become a lot easier. Not to say that it's easy. I think if you compare it to founding a company in the US, it's still very hard in Germany. I think in Germany it's most likely harder than anywhere else. But I think what people like us should take away from this, it's gonna be hard anyway. It's gonna be hard for even German people to found a company here with all the bureaucracy. The only thing that we should like keep persisting and like keep on going forward and try to break the barriers that come in front of us.
Yeah. Thank you. I was a founder myself, and I know that support means a lot. I also didn't know where to start, right? And network, I think, is very important. Is there like formal or informal support that you got somewhere that brought you further? Maybe you can name one or two examples.
I was recently thinking about this actually because from my parents' house there wasn't quite a lot of support. My parents have no entrepreneurship background, unfortunately. Otherwise, it would have been most likely easier. But I think there's great people out there that are aspiring to help young people, people with migration backgrounds that look for support, especially within those communities as two hearts. And it's great to have those wonderful people around that support even those who need support and without asking. So I think that's something really great to see, and I wish more of. Yeah.
Let's jump to the advice part of the panel. Question to all of you: what's one piece of practical advice would you give to someone who is just starting as a migrant founder, setting up a business, especially when they're unsure if they are gonna be welcomed or supported?
My piece of advice is to two things. First, to just trust yourself, because when you're coming as a migrant, you've already faced a lot of challenges. You've already overcome so many different obstacles in your way towards founding your company, towards moving to a different country, towards integrating into a new culture. And these are all practical lessons that you can draw on in the background or actively. And the second is something that my co-founder and I are always saying to each other, and that is to flex your ask muscle. You just have to ask sometimes. You cannot be shy. You have to come out of your shell. You have to ask for what you need. You have to communicate with the people around you and within your network. And the more you ask, the squeakier your wheel is, the more likely you're going to get the grease at the end of the day. And that has really served us on so many levels. So just step outside of your comfort zone. You already know how to do it anyways.
Totally agree on that. Thank you for sharing that.
Maybe first off, change your name. No, jokes aside. I think the asking thing is a really good advice. I think with many cultures, especially on the eastern side, we have learned to be very polite with people, to be very generous with people, and often that leads to not asking for something that you really want. And I've experienced it myself being in a room where there have been like customers of ours where I should have asked them, but I was like, they don't want to be approached now, right? Or is it unpolite to ask them about this? So I think that's something really difficult that you have to overcome as somebody with a migration background, to put your culture aside, to adapt, as you were saying before. My dad is a great example of it. When we are speaking with German people, then he's a completely different person. He talks a different language. I see him talk German in perfect way. It's crazy. And as an advice, I would say keep persisting. I think many of us or parents didn't come for no reason to this country, and this country is great. So make the most out of it. Ask for something. Go step forward and be bold about it.
Love that. Thank
Nice.
you.
So my advice is don't try to fit in every room, because you are not here to please everyone. try to find the rooms which appreciate your uniqueness, which means unique in your business, unique in your personality. And I stopped fighting, breaking down walls where, yeah, because then you just fight and run against walls, and then at some point you're burned out. So don't do it. Try not to fit in everyone. You're not here to please everyone. Find your rooms.
Yeah. And you are a fighter, Samina. I've known you a little bit. You're a great example of that. So I think that's a good advice and very current. In one sentence, let me ask Jacqueline, what is your vision for the future of innovation driven by migrant founders in Germany?
I would say that my vision for migrant founders in Germany is to realize a society that is sort of making equity a really, really high goal, so that everybody is welcome at the table. And when you don't have the means and resources in order to approach the table in the first place, that maybe there is some way, some person, some network, some opportunity for you to get there.
True. And Samina, if Germany wants to unlock its full innovation potential, what's the first policy or maybe system that they should change? I know it's a very advanced question, but
I mean, I'm a second generation, so I speak German. That's an advantage. But when I look at the first generation migrating from Syria, Afghanistan, they have so much potential, and we don't offer any. If you want to found a company, you have to speak German, right? Notate. I mean, I don't even know what's in English. Sorry. I mean, that's the bureaucracy is very high, and I think you meant that also, right? When you said Germany is hard to found a company. Yesterday, I had a conversation with someone. He said, Samina, let's found a company together. We do it in Denmark. It's much easier. If it doesn't work out, we just delete it again. And then I thought, okay, yeah. And I think that's a barrier, the bureaucracy and language barrier. You are so much dependent on someone helping you to found something. Yeah.
thanks.
Maybe one thing to add, like as the one thing to abolish is maybe the Schufa thing. I think a lot of people struggle with that here in Germany as well. But I think the system itself could be a lot more welcoming for people that come here and look for help, actually, to kind of like support them in the early days to get going.
Yeah. Totally agree with all of this. And a lot of studies show that migrant founders are very strong in resilience. How did you experience it, and what would be your advice to other founders? How to stay resilient, or what's the secret sauce behind that?
I think that there's no specific secret sauce. I think we all try to prove ourselves, eventually even to our parents, that we want to make them proud that they came all the way here to eventually support them one day. I think that's the big goal. And what I can give as a secondary advice to many founders out there is get involved, like get into a lot of meetups, meet a lot of people, get into the German groups. So that helps to build network, and your network is your net worth, I guess.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would say that you really have to know what your motivation for your company is. It might be monetary. For me, it's really about the impact that our products can make in the world. And one example of resiliency, like a tangible example, one investor came to us and said, democratizing a product is not a business model. And this really, took me aback, and it made me feel extremely rebellious against his opinion. And that is because I see that our products are posed to sort of revolutionize the way scientific experimentation is conducted at the bench, also in the field. And I would love to see our healthcare systems and our just ability to take in data and transform it into a digital footprint in a meaningful way that is just overall improving the quality of life, like, be implemented. And so for somebody to tell me that democratization of technology is not a business model because they want to make more money on the valuation of my company at the end of the day was just extremely just wrong for me. And so it made me feel very rebellious, and then further strengthened my belief that at the end of the day, I should be making an impact, and that the democratization of our products and our technology is actually the right thing for us to be pursue.
Totally agree. Yeah. And thank you for staying on the course and being rebellious. We need more people like you. The last question to all of you: what would you say to your younger self? The advice to your younger self?
It's good to be different. That's what I would say to my youngest. It's good to be different. Yeah. Because I try to fit in, but yeah. So that's what my younger self would need to know.
Mine would be pay more attention in math class, because as a female, you're really not encouraged to stay in the math and the science. And I kind of, came back to it on my own because I recognized the value of it, but almost too late. And not until I was at university did I really, there was no mentor pushing me towards these subjects in school. And so for all of the girls, I don't know why we're pushed towards reading, and math is also good. The liberal arts are extremely important as well. I dabble in both now, but pay more attention in math class would have been my fifth grade self.
Yeah, even if you don't like it. And mine is, we come to you, Noah, start before you're ready. I lost so much time. Perfecting, crafting, preparing before, just start. Just start it because you're ready. And you can, I think action comes along the way. Like you just have to start acting, and then you'll find it out. Noah, yours.
That's very true, by the way. And mine would be look for the right idols. I think, especially when you're young, you should pick out the right people to follow along, and to kind of like look, especially what you're good at, to look at what you're good at, and to figure out who's the right person to talk to get to your goal, to kind of make your dream a reality. I think that's my advice for that.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we need to wrap up, and thank you so much for being here. Your stories, your insights, all of these challenges, and being authentic. We talked about it with Zamina earlier. It just adds, to more like a real situation scene, right? So thank you for sharing it. So your challenges along the way, and there are studies that show that, especially the first gens that are coming, they are very resilient. Over 90% are well educated. So we do have Kräfte. We do have people, especially in IT. We just need to keep moving and make and unlock all of these resources. Yeah, thank you for your time. Thank you for your voice and your vision.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.